Morning. My name is Mirenchu Asin, and together with my colleague Camino Fabregas, we are the AgroFossilFree Communication and Dissemination Managers. Thank you all for attending this third and the last online workshop of the European project AgroFossilFree. We hope that it's going to be interesting, and we encourage all of you to participate on the open discussion that will take place at the end of the workshop. We ask you to please turn off your microphone in case we hear some noise. We will mute you, and in order to assure a good quality of the sound on each presentation. During the workshop, we will let you some time to ask for questions and make some contributions. You can do it either raising your hand, and we will let you participate by order, or you can also write it in the chat. Okay, so now let's start with a brief presentation of AgroFossilFree project. We are glad to introduce our project manager, Konstantinos Vaiopoulos. I hope I said it right, from SER, Greece. So please, Konstantinos.
So good morning, everyone. Yes, you said it right. And I will try to give you a small overview of what is this project all about for the ones that are not familiar. You can hear me right and see my screen.
Yes.
You confirm, nice. So we will talk about the path towards the fossilized EU agriculture. And the key element of our project is based on fossil energy-free technologies and strategies, or else FEFTs. And when we say FEFTs, we refer to technologies and strategies for either on-site renewable energy production or energy efficiency and rational use of energy in agricultural applications, or soil carbon sequestration practices. So the project, what tries to tackle at the moment? We identified that in agriculture today, there's an important gap between the existing FEFTs available and the actual adoption by farmers. And this gap will close only by gaining knowledge of existing technological advancements in the energy sector, and adequate training is achieved within the EU. In this way, sustainable food production practices will be followed, and EU agriculture will be aligned with the regulatory frameworks and the fossil energy use reduction policies. So during our project, we have produced a very detailed report on current energy use status in EU, and we have produced 3 research papers regarding each agricultural sector and their energy profile for open field crop production, livestock production, and greenhouses. At the same time, we have drawn very important results from a farmer survey and expert survey that were conducted with more than 470 farmers participating and 50 experts, where we explored what makes a farmer to adopt FEFTs or not. Successful case study stories videos have been produced for each of the partners countries participating in the workshop. We urge you to visit our YouTube channel and watch all these successful adoption of FEFTs videos. It will be very interesting. We have also created a platform where you can find almost 2,000 FEFTs. They will be available at the end of the project in the form of papers for FEFTs, research project results, commercial technologies, training materials, and financing mechanisms in order to support investments in this kind of FEFTs. It will be analyzed further on. Just wait a little bit. A decision support toolkit has also been prepared in order to propose the most interesting interventions for each farm. It will also be analyzed later on. We have conducted 24 regional workshops in the countries, in the partners countries participating in the project. In each country, 3 regional workshops were conducted dedicated to each agricultural sector, and very important results were drawn. After this series, we organized 3 transnational workshops where agricultural stakeholders from all the countries participating in the project were gathered and discussed about new policies, their problems, the incentives that they seek for. And based on all these results that I presented you, we are now at the process of producing policy recommendations. Yesterday, we had a very fruitful consultation work with EC policy officers, which was very helpful for us in order to optimize the policy recommendations that we will provide in a report form at the end of the project. So thank you for your attention. You can visit our platform, our social media, and we're here to answer in each question of you and in the open discussion.
Thank you very much, Konstantinos. As Konstantinos has said, you can know more about the project visiting our website and social media. You have all the information on the chat we are sharing with you. And now, before the next presentation, let's start knowing each other a little bit. So please take your phone or search in the site Slido, and entering the code, you can enter to the pool. You wait some minutes, you can ask the questions. Okay.
Okay, so we start.
I don't have your screen.
No?
Yeah, I don't. But I can find the link. So
you can see the screen.
I cannot.
see it either. No, I see a black screen.
Yeah, okay, we see it right, but
We see, we can see.
yeah,
You know, we are connected with other
yeah,
users, and we can see.
well, if not, you can go to slido.com and enter the code 1741952. For
We
the
can
people
write
kind of,
in the chat.
yeah, please, Camino. Solo el código.
Si hago esto. You can see on the chat,
Yeah.
the code.
So we see that most of the people come from Denmark, Greece, Poland. We have from Germany, Italy, Belgium, Spain. Okay. Okay, next. In which field do you work? Is
Are
it
you
for
a farmer?
yeah,
You working?
extension service, farmers union, advisor? Okay.
Most of you are researchers.
Yeah, 71%. Okay. Okay. And the last one, what is the measures through which you learned about the project? We want to know how you knew about the project.
Website and social media.
Project member, colleague from work. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you. And now is it the turn of Mike Caminiaris, is partner of the AgroFossilFree project. Is from he working at Genso, that is the partner that has developed one of the main results of the project. It is the platform and also the decision support tool, where you can find more information about 2,000 technologies and strategies. Good morning, Mike. The floor is yours.
Hello, good morning. Thank you very much. Let me share my screen first. Can you all see?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. So my name is Mike Kaminiaris, as Kamino said, from Agenso Company, an SME based in Athens in Greece, working on ICT and IoT solutions in agriculture and the environment. In the framework of the project, we have developed the Ag Energy platform, which is accessible in the platform.agrofossilfree.eu domain. Practically, it's the tool where we gathered all the knowledge that was compiled during the project implementation in order to have it in a one-point portal. So when accessing the platform, it is possible to select different categories of thefts, for example, commercial technologies, then the corresponding lower levels, depending on the categorization of the thefts you need to find. For example, if it's clean energy supply, energy efficiency improvement, or soil carbon sequestration. Then again, some sub-layerings regarding the classification of the thefts. And then in order to select, for example, more filters, you can select the renewable energy type. And you're presented with the results. On the left side of the screen, you have some filters you can adjust in order to make your search more precise. And then, for example, a technology is presented at the end like this, where you have all the information compiled in an easy to understand way with a general description and some images, and 4 distinct tabs with information, general information about the thefts, information about the provider and the source, any material that may be added, and an assessment form where it is possible to see some characteristics regarding general environmental and socioeconomic assessment of the technology that is added into the platform. The thing with this tool is that it is interactive, meaning that you can create for free an account and log in into the platform, which gives you the ability to provide thefts solutions that you have identified. Plus, this is possible when you log in into the profile icon and you, for example, go to add new thefts, where you are presented with a form of registration of a theft. And then the other benefit is that, let's say, a member that is identified as a user has the ability to, for example, rank a solution. In the assessment tab, you can provide your own evaluation with the button Give Your Evaluation. The thing is that how do you know which technology type is the best for your needs? Because there is a huge amount, a wealth of information in the platform, and sometimes it's not easy to identify the most proper solutions based on your needs. For this reason, we have, together with Serth, the coordinator of the project, we have developed this AI decision support tool. Practically, this tool gives for 3 different farming categories, the open field, the livestock, and the greenhouse farming, a short list of 5 to 6 questions where you need to answer from a drop-down menu. And then by submitting the form, you are presented with the results of the most proper solutions based on the needs that you were identified during this process. So when you click the button of View Solutions, you are redirected to the platform again, where the filters based on this solution are pre-selected. So you see, for example, improved agricultural practices, including precision agriculture. And you can browse the commercial technologies, the training material, and the financing mechanism that correspond to this result. The same applies for the rest of the solution types that are in the ranking list. So you can see this way which technologies are the most, let's say, proper for your needs. It is a tool that we developed having in mind that sometimes it's not easy Either you are a farmer or a researcher or a consultant to select based on your needs, which is the most proper type. So we urge you to become members of the AgEnergy platform and become, let's say, a user by creating a profile. That's all by my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mike. Well, we have shared the link to the platform in the chat, so we encourage you to visit the platform. I hope you found it very interesting, as is one of the main results of the project. So next to take the stand is our partner, Michael Normark from Aarhus University, Denmark, who is going to explain the results of our 3 transnational workshops organized during the last year. Each one based on open field agriculture, greenhouses, and livestock buildings. What were these workshops for? Well, we wanted to know more about the interest from our relevant stakeholders, get to know their needs, and come up with ideas for bringing solutions into practice. Please, Michael, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much, and hello, everyone. So, as Renzo was introducing, we had these 3 transnational innovation workshops. They were all physically, not hybrid or anything. It was physically arranged in 3 different countries. First of all, we had, as you see in the blue area here on this slide, we had 3 main sessions in the workshops where we discussed, first of all, the current status of energy consumption for these 3 themes. And then we went to the next session about main and current European industry solutions and policies promoting these FEFs. And the last thing that we were asking the participants, the stakeholders to answer was about research directions and collaboration and cross-border and educational efforts for the future. We had these 3 workshops. The one for livestock was in Denmark, and the open field workshop was in Poland, and for the greenhouses or protected crop production, it was in Greece. And there's just some impressions from what how it took place. A lot of people. We had for the greenhouses 55 participants, and for the open field 44, and for the livestock 41. And there were in general very good discussions at these seats. I participated in all 3 of them, and there was a very nice discussion all the time. And you can also see the image of all the post-its, and I will just explain how we used the post-its. First of all, there was, for each of these 3 sessions that I mentioned before, there were an introductory pitch and then some questions. And here's an example of the Mentimeter app we used for that. Now we use Slido today, but we used Mentimeter for the workshops. Here's an example, as you can see, where we ask the participants to rank 8 presented FEF solutions as must-haves for a farmer in the future. And here you can see, even though that we were divided into 2 groups, one group in one room and another group in the other room, there were some consistent, at least with the first. The really must-have is the biogas production that is a must-have for farmers in the future. So we used, first of all, the Mentimeter to start the discussion, and then we had an open discussion where we had prepared a lot of questions and sub-questions that the stakeholders had to write down their opinions into these post-its, and they were put up to a big post-it board that we have then gathered together in a big report. But I will spend the most of the time here just summarizing this report, the results, the outcomes from from these transnational innovation workshops. And I will start with the open field first, and there are some outcomes here. I will just go through them. The participants, they all said that much energy is going, and also much energy is wasted in terms of fertilization, tillage, and irrigation. That was stated by the participants. And if we look at the environmental perspective, that means we also have to take this holistic view on nitrogen leaching and phosphorus usage and all these things that we also have to consider, not only energy. Then they said, okay, there will be some high energy use for farms. That is inevitable, and it has to be accepted. That's also what the participants were saying. Another thing is that if we want to go for saving fossil fuel, then we will have to, and inorganic fertilizers as well, because inorganic fertilizers are a huge consumer of fossil fuel. Then we have to go for cover crops and legumes, adoption of conservation agriculture, and also for plant protection products and irrigation. We have to look into also breeding of new varieties of crops as well. That's what the stakeholders also mentioned as ways to overcome reducing fossil fuel consumption in open field agriculture. And another thing that was also interesting is that, okay, the farmers are of course always thinking about new businesses, and for the time being, they are looking into, for example, heat pumps and agrivoltaics for producing energy. But they also know, okay, when the prices are high for electricity, this is a very good business. But if this trend is return as it might be at the moment, then they actually will swap to maybe a new business in terms of precision farming or optimization. And they would also, in that relation to precision farming and optimization, they will need training of farmers. Oh, I have to do that. So, yep. And they came up with some very interesting policies as well. They were very much focused on biogas plants and production of biomethane. It would be very good to have some very clear policies on how to do this in the future. Of course, they want to be self-sufficient with fuel for their vehicles, but there's also a business potential in upgrading methane to biomethane, so we can use it for vehicles. Here again. Yeah, and then of course they have to familiarize with what we just saw Mike showing before with these 2,000 different FIFs we have. How can we familiarize with the FIFs? And that is of course training, education, knowledge. Pilot platforms was mentioned for demonstration and training, and also mentioned a lot well-established subsidy schemes as well. That was all for that, and of course regulations. That is also what was discussed a lot during these transnational workshops. And again, I have to mention that it is farmers and stakeholders and others from different countries, so they are quite they quite agreed on these different things. So reduction of taxes, policies for self-sufficiency of biofuel, as I mentioned before, with biomethane and other, also with biofertilizers, carbon credit schemes, incentives for self-sufficiency for proteins for their such that we can, as a open field, farmer, we can produce protein for our colleagues that are doing livestock farming, and also proteins for human consumption as well. Yeah. And they also were asked to come up with some ideas for innovations for the future. And there was a lot of focus on precision agriculture and conservation agriculture. And again, demonstration, knowledge sharing should play a key role. Livestock farming. That was a little bit different because they somehow said that it is the market of the livestock production that has the biggest impact on their costs and economy, not so much the higher energy cost. But for some countries, as we experienced, there was a clear incentive for alternative energy sources or renewable energy sources for what's called compensate for the rising energy prices. Again, biogas plants was a must-have. And here, if we look at the energy wasteful parameters in livestock, that is very much related to feed production, the efficiency. They also mentioned transport. And the third one, which was also clear to almost all the participants, is that the energy used by buildings is also very high. And that's especially when we are talking about poultry and pig production, but also for milking and manure handling when we are talking about dairy as well. So there's a lot of energy going into housing of livestock. Yeah. But they actually questioned that we were able to follow all this energy. How can we monitor and analyze? And that was mainly what they had for research needs. How do we monitor the energy consumption and waste? And they also, as mentioned, for the open field, they were agreed they need practical and training and demonstration, pilot farms, and so on. That was the same as for the open field. They also looked at incentives that actually gives the farmers some economical rewards for implementing technology that are reducing the energy consumption, especially the fossil fuel energy consumption. That could be tax reduction, credits, green credits, and then also what was mentioned a lot was the guarantee that the investment pays off. That was also very important for them. I think it relates to the pilot platforms and the farms to show that the investment actually pays off. Yeah. New policies. I think it was very common also for the open field and for all of the three themes that these subsidy schemes that should be correlated to the production and not to the technology itself. That means the more effect a technology has, the more subsidy the farms can get, and they should look at the farm and not at the technology itself. It is the system approach that should be taken here with new policies. And then there's a need for multidisciplinary involvement when we are talking about research and development. Yeah. I will jump to the greenhouse or protected plant production, as I call it, but it was mainly in relation to greenhouse production of crops. So what we heard from that workshop is that the transition from what they are doing now to more energy efficiency technologies it's very much depending of the fossil fuel prices. They are using a lot of fossil fuel for heating and other things in these greenhouses, and it's also you could say, what are the common efficiency improvement goals on the whole European level? So they somehow hesitate a little bit to transition, but they need some goals, and yeah. Yeah, and then they suggested some incentives, what can actually stimulate these fifth adoption, and again, related to the above, it is some policies, and it's very much focusing on the returns of the investments. It should be in focus. Subsidies, yes, and then also knowledge sharing, training and education. All information that we have from other greenhouse farms or colleagues and on a European level, that should be communicated. That should be a strategy to communicate all the experiences and return of investments in relation to the technologies and strategies, the fifths. So it's also related to the last item here, that there should be a clear orientation of the research, and it should be again multi-disciplinary, and co-creation is also another word here, that different stakeholders have to work together, and then at the very end of each project, research project or innovation, there should be a very effective dissemination strategy and knowledge sharing. So that was actually the very short summary of this work with the 3 transnational innovation workshops in these 3 countries. So I think that was all from my side.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Very interesting result from the transnational workshops. And now let's give the floor to the next speakers who are going to present as the 3 European innovative case studies. To start, we are glad to introduce Julio Roman from ICAF, the European Conservation Agriculture Federation, who is going to present the Spanish case study. Please, Julio, go ahead.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. Well, I'm going to present part of the case study that we carry out in Spain is related to conservation agriculture. And first of all, I don't know now, well, to put in context what the situation in Spain and also in Europe, well, mainly to know that according to the European Environmental Agency, well, agriculture contributes to climate change, but also is affected by climate change. And we have a big, huge challenge with soils, because approximately the 60 and 70% of European soils are unhealthy. And one of the most important problems in soils is the carbon stock in topsoil is declining. So climate change, it implies some climate change, because in the Mediterranean areas mainly, that's why in that case study is important for Spain. In the Mediterranean countries, the management practice in agriculture that helped not help make this decline of carbon stock. On the other hand, we have another problem about the emissions. Emission in the last 50 years, the emission of the carbon dioxide increased highly, more than by 80%. And well, in this case, in the case of Spain, the 13% of greenhouse gas emission came from the agricultural sectors. It's quite more than in Europe, because in the rest of Europe, the average in Europe is around 10%, but in Spain is around 30%. It implies that the agricultural sector is very important for Spain. Why this case study? This case study is to highlight the importance of conservation agriculture to tackle these challenges, reduce greenhouse emission, and also increase the soil carbon stock in the European soils. And well, first of all, it's important to know what's conservation agriculture. Conservation agriculture is a management system. It's a management system. It's composed by some practices, but is based on 3 principles. The first one is minimum or no soil disturbance. Try to disturb the soil as less as possible, and the practice for this principle is mainly no tillage or strip tillage. It's quite different as reduced tillage. It's not considered conservation agriculture, but is a process to move towards conservation agriculture. The second principle is to keep the soil covered during all the year with crop residues, cover crops, organic vegetation, or organic or residues that cover the soils, that help the soil to keep the structure and improve the soil health. And the last principle is crop rotation and this diversification of species. These principles helps farmers, or helps the soils to adapt to the system. And two of the main benefits that the introduction of these principles give to the soil is soil carbon sequestration, increase the soil carbon sequestration, and also reduce the use of fossil fuel. That's why this project is talking about. And why Spain is important. Spain is the most important country in Europe in the adoption, in terms of adoption of conservation agriculture. The average cropland in Europe in conservation, under the principle of conservation agriculture, is around 7 million hectares. But in Spain, is 2 million hectares under conservation agriculture. In both practices, the most common practices, no tillage and ground cover for woody crops. That's you can see in these figures, the increase of the techniques during the last 15 years. If you we have developed this case study, interviewing or showing the successful cases of 2 farmers. One of them is Don Pedro Maestre. He's a farmer and agronomist, and he managed around 750 hectares of extensive crops, mainly winter wheat, sunflowers, and legumes. Is the rotation of the farm in conservation agriculture. And this farm is under conservation agriculture for the last 25 years. And this farm is located in Alcalá de Guadaira, close to Seville, is the south Spain, in Andalusia. The other farm that we show in this case study is Antonio Conde. He's a young farmer. He's a very young farmer. He's still studying at the university, and he managed a family farm of 5 hectares of traditional olive groves with ground covers and also pruning residues in a small village located in the Jaén province, is called Castillo de Locubín. And well, why these farmers goes or move to conservation agriculture? Well, the case of the first one, the older one, the Pedro Maestre, started in the mid of 90s when conservation agriculture, thanks to some the provider distributors, start to introduce conservation agriculture in Spain. Well, they prepare some field days to show the new machines for conservation agriculture. And in 1987, he attended to a field day to increase the knowledge about that. And that was the starting point for him, because in 1998 start to implement CA the farm. He bought his first direct seeders. What was a Marlis seeder. It was a that came from the South America, where the system were introduced many years ago. After that, he created with other farmers the Andalusian Conservation Agriculture Association. They joined to the Spanish Association of Conservation Agriculture, and well, they are very interested to increase the knowledge about the conservation agriculture, and well, contacted with a technician from Argentina. Argentina is the country with one of the most important countries in terms of conservation agriculture adoption, to raise the knowledge about the system. And then he started to collaborate in many projects, and now it's part of another project is very important for carbon sequestration called Life Agromitiga. Well, the timeline of the other farmer, Don Antonio Conde, well, he's younger, so he started in 2015 to approach to conservation agriculture in some field days, seminars, training at the university. That he tried to know more about what can do in his farm, because he has a lot of problem with the runoff and erosion. That's the main problem by many farmers move to conventional agriculture to conservation agriculture, is to reduce the effect of runoff and erosion or soil loss in the farms. After that, in 2017 and 2018, he established ground covers in the olive groves, and joined into the Life Agromitiga that helps both farmers to know what's happening in the soils, and also the technician from this project give advice to introduce these practices, and help them to know more about the systems. And why it's important conservation agriculture for reduce or to mitigate and adapt a climate change in agriculture? Well, mainly because we have two factors. We keep the soil covered with permanent soil covered with residues, organic residues that we incorporate into the soil, and that's helped to increase the organic matter level. And after that, and also we have a suppression of soil disturbance that help to reduce the number of operations that reduce the emission of CO2 into the atmosphere. Adopting these techniques of adopting these systems, farmers can reduce fossil fuel consumption around 20%. They reduce the emission of CO2 from the soils, because when we tillage the soil, the carbon mineralize and also emit CO2 from the soils when we are doing some operation in the soils, around 30-40%. We reduce the direct emission by operation, direct and indirect, emission of the farm operation around 50%. Energy consumption is reducing 17%. And also we have an average potential sequestration in no tillage or 1.2 megagrams or tons of per hectare and year, and in ground covers around 5.4 tons of CO2 per hectare and year. That's why conservation agriculture is important. And these case studies have some results. Thanks to the AgroMitiga project, we are monitoring the carbon stock in soil, and during the project started in 2018. Well, and during the following seasons, we are measuring the soil carbon stock in both farms. And well, for the farm located in Alcalá de Guadaira, Seville, is the extensive farm. During the last 2 years, the increment of organic carbon per hectare was around 4 tons. That's make an average of 2 tons per year of soil carbon sequestration. In case of the other farmer, the younger one, Don Antonio Conde, the increase or the increase of carbon sequestration is higher. That's why, because in the ground covers combined with running residues give more carbon or more organic matter to the soils, and he can increase the content of organic carbon into his soils for more than 7 tons the organic carbon per hectare in 2 years. The second, well, if you can see the other graph, is another farm, is another field for the same farm that is managed in conventional tillage, and thanks to include or introduce the pruning residues in the second year, increase also the level of carbon, organic carbon in the soil. Last, one of the main problems in this case study, or the other part of that we talk in this case studies, is the dissemination. It's very different, the dissemination in both cases, because the old farmer, Mr. Pedro Maestre, well, dissemination is very difficult. He tried to disseminate these practices among other farmers in the cooperatives, in other, with other farmers in associations, and creating some field days to promote in their field, the farm, the benefits to adopt these practices. On the other hand, Mr. Antonio Conde is younger, and he used social media to promote these techniques. That's, you can see, it's very, very followed guy, and well, he has a lot of followers in Twitter, Instagram, and he can reach more people and try to raise the awareness about the importance of introduce this system in the Spanish, in this case, in the Spanish agriculture. And finally, as a conclusion, we can see that the introduction of the principle of conservation agriculture is postulated as one of the most important management systems for sequestering carbon in agricultural soils. We can see in many figures, we have a lot of data that is the best system to increase carbon in Europe, or also is very important for the Mediterranean countries, and also it's make the agriculture less dependent on fossil fuels. So that could be better to mitigate climate change. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Julio. We have shared the full video of the case study on the chat, so you can have a look at it after the workshop. And you can find also other cases studies videos in YouTube, in our YouTube channel. So now we are, if someone has any question, please, you can participate now. If you want to ask anything to Julio, We can also wait until the end. So now we are going to have the presentation of Cor van Oors. I don't know if I said it right. He comes from Delphi, our Dutch partner, and he's going to present a sustainable storage barn. So now we are
very much. So this is a very short introduction of our case study in the Netherlands of a farmer who is in the southwest of the Netherlands. It is an arable farm, so mostly the crops are potatoes, wheat, onions, carrots, sugar beets, that kind of stuff. It's for Dutch and I think for European style, it's quite large. It's 400 hectare. And the entrepreneur you see on the picture is Tony van Peperstraten. He is the owner of the farm, and he decided a few years ago to build the farm, the storage of the future. Maybe we can, behind him you can see the barn. And maybe we can take a look at the next slide, slide number 2. And there you can see that the roof is fully covered with solar panels. And the idea behind this case study of the storage, the barn of the future, is that in the Netherlands we are producing a lot of solar energy and also wind energy, but you can imagine that on the moments that the sun shines or that the wind blows, it is not always the moment that we also need the energy at that moment. So you need to have a way to use the energy that you are producing on another way. What he does is use this enormous barn. It is all completely new. 2 weeks ago, we had the official opening of this storage, and it's used for potatoes in bulk, but also for potatoes in boxes and for onions. Maybe we can move over to the next slide. I hope this goes well because I only see my
Yeah,
own
we
screen.
are in potato storage.
Yeah, you see the potatoes,
Yeah.
and you see the condensers at the end.
Yeah.
You see the ventilators. So what we do here is we use the solar energy to use all the electrical devices in the barn are powered by the solar energy. But what is also very important is that the water which comes free if you are drying the potatoes, that is also harvested in the barn. So maybe we can take a look at the next slide.
Yeah.
I can explain a bit more. Okay, so we have on the roof a tremendous amount of solar panels, 500, but also the farm has a windmill. I have no picture of this, but you can imagine how this looked like. And the island on which this is situated is called Goeree-Overflakkee. It has a surplus of wind energy. So there is too much wind energy, much more wind energy than they can use for consumption. So like I said, the construction is made that they can also store water. This means that you have water in a cellar below the storage. It is about 3 meters deep, And this means that all the water that comes on the roof or on the yard of the farm, but also the condense from the product, is stored under the barn. And these things together, so both the energy from the solar panels or maybe the wind energy with the water can be used to produce hydrogen. And the hydrogen has a link with the gas station on the near the farm. So this means that we can produce hydrogen, and we can run tractors or buses on hydrogen in the southwest. Like I said, it is used for storage for potatoes, onions, and also for wheat. And what I forgot to mention is also very interesting, of course. If you use this way the energy to transform the water into hydrogen, you can in fact use the hydrogen as a kind of battery. You can store the energy. And another possibility, which is in the near future but is not yet in function yet, it is not so difficult to make from hydrogen methane so that you can use it as a fertilizer. Okay, so that you can bring the fertilizer to the soil. Then we go to the next. I have some other.
Yeah.
The next one.
Right.
Yeah. So the water. There is also an installation in the barn that also can purify the water. So most of the water is, of course, a little bit dirty because of it. It runs off the roof and it runs off the yard, but it can also be purified so much that it can be used as drinking water as well. And of course, it can be used for spraying water for the crops as well. And maybe the next picture, that is my last one.
Yeah.
You see the farmer again, of course, and you see here the werktuigenloods. You see where he keeps his machines. It's also built close to the storage. It's a very a huge complex, and below this, what you now are looking at is the 3-meter deep cellar in which the water is contained. So this is a very innovative farm, and it's very impressive. If you ever have the chance to visit us, I can take you along and we can visit it, of course. So that is a bit the case study that we've used. We've also asked him for a few workshops. So we also presented his study and his case study, his barn of the future, on a few workshops we did. So
Okay.
That is a bit the story about the
Thank
story.
you, Gordon. We have shared the full video of the case study in the chat. Just as information, as we couldn't present all the case studies, just to let you know that we will, in the following weeks, we will share the Italian case. We have here Elisa, our partner from Confra Agricoltura. And also we will share the Irish case that we are going to present now. But you also can find the Polish case, the German case, the Danish case, and the Greek case. Everything on our YouTube channel and the website. Okay, so now we are going to have the last presentation with Jack O'Connor. Can you hear it? Well,
hi there, my name is Jack O'Connor. I'm from a company called BHSL based here in West Limerick, Southwest Ireland. and I'm just going to talk to you about the technology, fluidized bed combustion technology, which you see here behind me, a 500 kilowatt fluidized bed unit, and the story of how the technology was developed to deal with the abundance of poultry manure that's produced in our area and in any area in the world where chickens are grown. This story starts back in the late 90s when European-wide legislation came to fruition here in West Limerick, in particular the Nitrates Directive. So the spreading of poultry manure on local lands could not continue because the phosphorus levels were so high. In response to this regulatory drive, the local Cantor Poultry Producers Association decided to look at what the options were. The idea came from the power plant business worldwide, where we examined, and when I say we, the group in Cantor Poultry Producers Association, I led up the combustion side, and with the University of Limerick, we examined, could we miniaturize the power plant scenario to a non-farm situation. On the regulatory development, the Environmental Protection Agency and the Department of Agriculture were very supportive in seeing that this material was brought out of a waste category to support the idea of having something else other than land spreading to use it for fuel. Once we had decided on the idea and we reached out to the Environmental Protection Agency, and that funding support in the early 2000s allowed us to put the pilot plant in place. Now, we then had to reach out for technical support. Local engineers got involved, and then we found some very experienced technical people in the UK to support this small-scale development. So by 2004, we'd established that the pilot unit on my own farm and on the farm at Moss McHenry was viable. The company BHSL was set up, investors came on board, and we then went to reach out to other sites, and Kinsale in the south of Ireland, down near the city of Cork, was identified as an ideal site to test the 200 kilowatt unit. From that site, we attracted customers from the UK, and then by 2010, we started rolling the technology into the UK. This is a fossil energy-free technology where you're using a carbon-rich material to supply the energy requirements on the farm. And poultry manure is rich in carbon, volatiles and hydrogen. So a key part to this deployment of this technology was the regulatory requirements around it. And heretofore, poultry manure was classified as a waste, but with the help of the Environmental Protection Agency, Department of Agriculture, we took a case to Brussels, the Animal Byproduct Working Group in Brussels, worked with DG Sante, to eventually leading to the publication of new regulation in 2014, which allowed the use of poultry manure as a fuel and combustion on your own site. So the chicken manure from the flock of chickens is taken from the shed and put into a secure top loader bay, where it is gradually removed as the boiler requires onto a conveyor belt. And the conveyor belt takes it to the fluidized bed unit, and it drops a bubbling bed of sand, and the sand is heated to 700 degrees with an auxiliary diesel burner. Ash drops out as it heads through to the heat exchangers, producing hot water that can be sent down to the poultry sheds, the heat sheds, or can be used for electricity generation. We put the advantages into three categories. That's poultry, planet and profit. On the poultry side, we see, because we now have abundant heat, enhanced environment in the shed, optimum ventilation, food conversion ratios are enhanced, taking the manure from the shed to a secured fuel bay enhances biosecurity phenomenally. The planet side is the carbon footprint. We had a solution to the land spreading of manure. The fact that we're not hauling a fossil fuel onto the site has been removed. And the third one then on the profitability side of it is this has created new income streams on the farm. Where we are here is in the R&D here at our base in Cantor. The 500 kilowatt unit behind us is used for testing other fuels. From the outset, the technology was developed to allow the chicken producer get on with the business of growing chicken rather than minding a piece of technology like this. So from the very outset, we were remotely hooked into those units, and we have guys here at base that monitor the systems full time, ensuring all those units are in regulatory compliance, number one, and number two, producing sufficient hot water or electricity in the case of 7 of the units. The idea of using residues that heretofore were a nuisance as sources of energy and recovering the nutrients is something that has been pushed from a climate action point of view, from a European circular economy point of view. So we see the technology, the idea of using it at the point of source as being attractive in a whole lot of different spaces, not only in the wastewater industry, in the food sector, and in the hen manure and poultry manure sectors.
Okay.
Okay.
Even if Jack is not connected, I think that all of you have an idea now about the case study through this very interesting video. And now I hope you have enjoyed all the presentation of this the 3 case study. And now we would like to know your opinion about the topics our colleagues have presented. And now, please, could you take your phone and go into the
Slido.com, and you can introduce the code. Camino is going to copy it in the chat. It's 9004643. Just 3 questions, and then we will go.
You can
for
find
the open discussion.
you can find on the chat. Wait 3 minutes.
Okay, then we start. So what are the main barriers or disadvantages in your country to building a farm like the one in the Dutch case? This is an open question, so you can include 1 word, 2 words, a phrase. This is the case that our Dutch partner Cor presented. Okay, finance, support framework. Okay. The cost, yeah. Bureaucracy facilities very old. New buildings, okay, but land buildings not. Lack of information. Okay, financial support. So most of the people say financial issues.
Bureaucracy also. It is clear that the cost is very important. Okay, someone is participating, so we are going to wait.
Just a few seconds.
Okay, financial and knowledge barrier.
Maybe Cor, do you want to say something about these answers? You are muted.
You put something on the chat, but we are not
Yeah.
sure what do you want to say with this.
Cor, you have to open your microphone to speak.
Okay, this is better.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Are you surprised with the answers from the audience?
I'm sorry, but I cannot see the answers on my screen. So
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Still.
most of the people are saying financial issues, financial mechanisms are not suitable right now in Italy, lack of information, bureaucracy also, facilities very old, the cost, Most of the people say financial problems.
Yeah, I think this is the main topic at the moment, that it is still very expensive to make such an installation as I try to show to you. You can imagine that the the farmer has received from the Dutch or European government some subsidies, because otherwise it would not be possible. What would be really interesting, I think, if the possibilities for the installation, especially the installation to break down the water into hydrogen and oxygen. So the electrolyzer, I think it's called. I'm not a chemist, so it's for me it's a bit difficult. That is the most expensive and usually a big installation. But there are some developments. I have been told that there are possibilities in the near future that these installations will become a little bit more smaller. So you can imagine that it would be more easier for a normal farmer to have such an installation on his farm. But can also imagine that it's also on regulation. It's difficult if you are producing hydrogen, which is flammable, and also the step that I mentioned, making from hydrogen again fertilizer, that it is you're transforming your farm also a bit into a chemical plant. So you can imagine that is a bit, it gives new questions, of course. Sorry.
Thank you, Cor. Someone has put a question in the chat for you. Is the hydrogen stored in gas or liquid form? Is Jan Peter asking?
I must say I do not know the answer. I think it was under high pressure, and so I think it's liquid.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Is there any comment about another country or the situation in another country?
If someone wants to share their experience or...
Sergio just asked before if you can make an intervention, but he has to go. I just see his comment now. If you have 1 minute, Sergio, and you're still in, of course, you can take the floor.
Sergio, if you want to say something. Or I think he
yeah, he's out, but we'll have a further contact later. But I would like to have a final question for Cor. The example of Tony van Peperstraten, he followed a specific business case, a prepared business case, or he did his own research and explored the different potentials of combining so many sustainable technologies. Because if it is something that derives from his creativeness, okay, it's more difficult for a farmer to follow this example. Or there is specific business cases that can be explored by farmers and see what they can do with investments, financial tools, and stuff.
Yes, it is quite a complex thing that he is organizing, and I came along this case study more or less by accident, because I know him for a very long time. But he has been, let's say, breeding on this idea for a very long time. So it's not something that is invented in half a year and then suddenly all things came together. So it's, I think it's more than 5 years that he has been working on this idea.
Maybe if through successful case study stories, we structure specific examples of what are the economic factors about the investment and what they should expect in, let's say, in a 5-year interval, then it would be more easy for farmers to see it more seriously. Thank you for your answer.
Yes.
Okay, so we continue with the Slido. I know that some of you have already answered. For which of the following energy production technologies are you more interested in? So we see that most of the people are saying solar, energy, also biofuels, biogas, any energy storage system, wind turbines. I'm sorry for those who cannot access to the pool.
For those who cannot access, maybe using the smartphones, if they have some a smartphone available, it would be easier.
Yeah.
But I have to admit here that yes, previously the wind turbines were at the fourth position. Now they are returning again in the fourth position. During the regional and the transnational workshops, we didn't see so much interest by agricultural stakeholders by this. But as we heard before, the Dutch farmer example, he had incorporated wind turbines in his farm, maybe small or medium. I don't remember the size core, but we didn't see so much interest about investing in wind turbines by farmers. If you have anything to add on this or comment, that was our what we draw as an outcome. You know, Cor?
Now in the Netherlands, there is a lot of interest to invest in wind energy by farmers, because the windmills that are being built in the Netherlands, you cannot put them in a city, of course. So they are all in the rural areas, which are owned by farmers. Unfortunately, normally there is an explorer and somebody or an investor, which is usually the energy company, who builds the windmills and rents mostly the land from the farmer. But if you are an more smarter farmer, then you try to develop your own windmills and explore the windmill yourself. It's much more lucrative, much more interesting in financial.
Thank you for your answer. I believe in the rest countries, except the Netherlands, maybe the concept of small and medium turbines is more popular, because the big ones needs a larger group of farmers or associations, or contract with some energy producers, and maybe this is the key.
Exactly.
Thank you, Konstantinos and Cor. So we go forward to the last question. What recommendations, measures would you like to communicate to the European policymakers to promote the defossilization of the agriculture? We wanted to include these questions. AgroFossilFree is already finishing. We finished in September, and we are now preparing the policy briefs. So it is quite important to hear from you what you think. And for the people who are not on Slido, they can also open their mics and participate if they want to. Okay, so we have one answer. E-courses, low interest loans for certain technologies, tax exceptions for pioneers. Financing for innovation, more control and fines for who break the law. Okay, and the third one, provide more subsidies to the farmers. Give incentives to farmers and energy providers to adopt these new methodologies. Training of agricultural advisors for on-farm energy options, loans, mid and long term. full systems consideration well to prop instead of tailpipe emission regulation. Financing for new method. Okay, thank you all. More loans.
That was the last question in slide, Mirenzo.
Yeah.
I see that we have also Jack O'Connor together with us.
Okay.
Don't know if anyone has any question for Jack about his successful case study.
Maybe he can.
For missing the presentation, but I'm sure people saw the video and understand the principle of what BHSL do, which is taking these materials that are difficult to land spread. They have good fertilizer value, but the nutrient runoff has been a problem. And that the video shows focuses on poultry manure, which is globally the same issue. It's an intense business in an intense area, and the land is saturated from manure since the mid-1960s. But the same applies for residues like meat and bone meal, municipal sludges, and while anaerobic digestion, pyrolysis, and other technologies are there, what we have focused on is the fluidized bed combustion and the energy recovery, and then all the ash that can be all the nutrients that can be recovered from the ash. And as we know, Europe has now identified phosphorus as a critical raw material, and one of the only ways of recovering phosphorus is to reduce the material to ash in the first case, and then distill out the phosphorus from the ash. There are some companies already in Europe doing that, like Prion in Belgium, EcoFos in France, and it's becoming serious business. The idea of, well, it's been promoted by policy and by incentive, the recovery of phosphorus from materials, and this is one of the few ways of doing it. Yeah, so in summary, our business has grown in the UK mostly, because I see the answers to the questions there, they hit the nail on the head. The incentive was in the UK, very little incentive in Ireland. So our technology was developed in Ireland and deployed in the UK. We have a research and development facility at our base in Cantor, which Tom and Barry are familiar with, and we work with the Department of Agriculture, doing things like meat and bone meal and other fuels. Yeah, so you've seen the video. Tom has a lot of work done on the story around it, and finally, the guys, the poultry producers in the UK that have these machines on their farms since 2010 have made a huge income stream outside of any other environmental positive impact on it. Yeah.
You might just comment as well on the policy change that was needed there, Jack, in the UK to make all of this work. There was
just 1 second. Let's give 1 minute on the regulatory change, a policy change, and that was poultry manure was considered a waste, and in that instance, it was impossible to do things like we do with it, because waste regulation is such a huge barrier to get across if we're using this material in combustion. Very important to distinguish between fuel in combustion and incineration, the latter being just to burn it, to discard of it. So we took the argument on fuel in combustion for animal byproducts with the help of our own Department of Agriculture, with our own Environmental Protection Agency in Ireland. They had been very supportive, and that was as big an incentive as anything for innovation like this, was to have the support of the regulatory authorities. So we took it to Brussels, and there was a lot of legal argument as well as data around what are the consequences, both environmentally, financially, regulatory. And Brussels in 2014 brought in the new regulation that any farmer in Europe that wants to use poultry manure on their own farm as a fuel in combustion can do so under regulation 592/2014. So now you've obviously, it's strict regulations on emissions and everything, but they're very doable. We have shown that these are very achievable. Yeah, so that's the regulatory journey. And since that 2014 opening, meat and bone meal has become the same, a fuel. So has manures from other species, horses or pigs, swine or whatever, and all those manures are now animal byproducts for fuels. But again, the technologies to use them as fuels it's not like a wood chip boiler suddenly become an animal byproduct boiler. It doesn't work like that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Jack. Well, I don't know if anyone has a question because we are already 3 minutes over the time, yeah.
But it's time for open discussion. So
If anyone has a question to maybe Julio, Cor, Jack.
or make some contribution
Yeah.
to the topics discussed today.
I would ask Julio a question.
Yeah.
If you have seen any increase in the interest of European farmers, don't know if it is in specific countries or a wider one, about adopting conservation agricultural techniques now that the fuel costs have increased and there is this form of crisis. Do you really see more interest?
Yeah, well, it depends of the country. The Mediterranean countries are increasing the interest. In Spain, a lot because the new CAP is, well, the eco schemes are well, quite related with these practices. The Mediterranean countries, well, need to change the management system. Is clear because they are losing a lot of soils. They have, well, all Mediterranean countries has a huge problem with the carbon, the decline or the soil degradation, and also the risk of the certification. And in Central and Northern European countries, well, it's changing, but it's this process is slower than in the south. The problem is sometimes is minimum tillage is well known, and sometimes farmers need to, well, to get more knowledge about the techniques, and sometimes it's difficult to manage weeds or manage other well, techniques or new technologies in terms of conservation agriculture. But well, it's a practice and knowledge is we need to increase the training, offer good trainings for farmers to adopt conservation agriculture.
Thank you for your answer. And I think everyone that is interested in this concept of conservation agriculture should definitely watch the video that you produced in the Spanish case, because a lot of questions will be answered immediately.
Yeah, for sure. Greece, I know Greece well, and well, Chris Cavalaris is here, and Greece needs also to adopt conservation agriculture as much as possible.
Yes, Julio, sorry, yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. We are doing a lot of job here in Greece trying to convince farmers about this. A couple of days before, I was discussing with the importers of agricultural machinery in Greece why they don't provide and don't boost this kind of the no-till planters, for example. And also they are reluctant because they don't know this system. So it is something new for Greece, and it's in the infant state, I would say, not like Spain. So we have a lot of work to do. But on the other hand, I also have the feeling that now the farmers are starting to ask every time. They stop and ask and want to know what is this system. So I hope we will have a great change at the next 3 to 5 years.
Thank you very much, Christos. Indeed, as you said. And I believe that all the successful case study stories, the one from Jack and our Irish partners, the one for Tony van Peperstraten and Cor van Oers from the Netherlands, and the one that you created, Julio, in Spain, could give so so good example for one to consider it changing and be more sustainable in his agricultural activity.
Yeah, we invite you all again to visit the YouTube channel because you can see all the videos there. And we think that partners have done a really good job making these videos.
And of course, register on the platform, see the solutions, the current solutions, read about what are the most recent scientific results and the commercial products and the financing tools. Assess them if you have relevant experience, because maybe you can find something that you can express your reluctance or approve a lot. And the DST tool as well for some quick intervention suggestions for farmers.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Konstantinos, and thank you everybody for participating in the last online workshop. It was a pleasure.
We can inform you, sorry to interrupt, Mirenzu, that on the 22nd of June, we have our brokerage event on Brussels, and you are all invited to participate physically.
We'll share the information through the website and social media.
And online through the access link that we will provide to you. You will be informed as you are in the newsletter. Don't miss this chance. It will be very, very interesting.
Thank you all. Thank you. Bye-bye.